afternoon, everyone. Well, you really can plan your holiday on the understanding that the good weather comes when football starts. It's a very warm afternoon indeed. Let's look straight away at the Arsenal side today, with David O'Leary at number 5. Steve Bold out with an ankle injury and missing a major match for the club for the first time for 18 months. Paul Merson is likely to switch to the left of midfield because of the absence of Anders Limpar, who scored for Sweden against Norway on Thursday night but damaged himself in the process. David Rocastle, you just saw a little glimpse of him. Here he is. He is playing after an operation to insert 3 screws into a broken finger. That's the legacy of an accidental collision with Sampdoria's Gianluca Vialli in the Makita tournament last Sunday. If you are going to get injured, I suppose there's some prestige in doing it in a collision with such a famous opponent. Tottenham's team shows 2 changes from the side which started the FA Cup final. Terry Fenwick is fully fit at last and preferred to Justin Edinburgh, who's had a disappointing pre-season. Fenwick will play at right back with Pat van den Hauwe switching to the left. And Naim, a capable substitute for Paul Gascoigne after those first fateful 15 minutes here against Forest in May. Well, he has the opportunity to reiterate his claims for a regular place. Naim, one of 5 midfield players selected by Peter Shreeves. Terry Fenwick, who broke a leg playing at Manchester United in a League Cup tie, coming up for 2 years ago now, and then broke it again, warming up for an FA Cup tie in the kick-in at Portsmouth earlier this year. He did come back and play 1 game right at the end of the season, the match that Tottenham had at Manchester United 2 days after they won the FA Cup. Ron Atkinson said earlier, Peter Shreeves, in many good judges' eyes, unlucky to lose his job in the mid-80s as manager of Tottenham. An ideal choice, one would think, by Terry Venables to take over the team. And it's his team that are going to kick off. Usually, this Charity Shield is regarded as the last of the pre-season activities. But I think, given the nature of a local derby here, this is going to be pretty close to the real thing. And Arsenal in particular are out to avenge the pain of that FA Cup semi-final defeat here 4 months ago at the hands of their closest rivals. Paul Allen is the number 11 for Tottenham, who are staying with this design of kit that we saw for the first time in the cup final, with the longer shorts. The pitch on the firm side, but lavishly grassed, of course. Paul Stewart with the header. One wonders how far forward he will allow himself to go from his new midfield role that's made him look, in truth, a more complete player. So much money spent by the First Division clubs in the closed season, but none by these 2 sides. Tottenham don't really have it to spend. George Graham is in the black at the back, but he hasn't found the quality of performer that he feels would add to the standard of his squad. Here's David Hillier. Ron Atkinson has joined me. He's doing overtime today because of Andy Gray's late unavailability. But Ron, you can get your own back in the week. You can let him do all the work at Aston Villa. Naim to Lineker, who turned well to get the better of O'Leary momentarily. O'Leary trying to win the ball back and playing his part there with the help of Merson. Davis. Well, it's starting at a pace that really is out of keeping with the conditions. One wonders how long they will be able to sustain the pressing and the challenging that's going on, and the work off the ball. Adams denying Tottenham then with some authority. Dixon going outside of Rocastle, and Smith ahead of him. It's Arsenal's throw. Arsenal, who carried all before them last season in the First Division, losing just that one league match to Chelsea. They lost once in the Rumbelows Cup to Manchester United, but the defeat that hurt the most was the one here in the FA Cup in the semi-final against Tottenham, when Spurs started at such a quick pace. Oh, and it's Campbell, and it was a fleeting chance, but it was a chance.
Very much so. A hell of a long throw in from Dixon. Campbell taken a little bit by surprise when the Spurs defenders missed this one. He hasn't quite got his sharpness there. Maybe a little bit too close on the keeper. Maybe if he'd been a yard or two back, he'd have just had a little bit more space to manipulate the ball.
So just over 5 minutes gone. It's Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0, which was the way the two league matches between the two clubs finished last season. Tottenham, as so often, finding their best when they're confronted by the red and white of the opposition. Here's Rocastle. Smith waiting on the far side. Now having to come if the ball goes to feet. It's in for Campbell from Davis, and it was the best opening of the match so far. And Kevin Campbell, George Graham's reaction quite plain there. Needs no extra comment from me. But Kevin Campbell really has earned his living in his short career with a great goal ratio.
Yeah, I mean, but he showed what he's all about. He's about running forward. This is a super piece of play from Davis. Very well disguised ball. Campbell's done well in as much as he's sprung the offside trap. Got a feeling the keeper should take a little bit of credit there. He actually held a very good position and showed Campbell little of the goal.
Well, Eric Torsvedt, who had a marvellous match here against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final, while his opposite number then and today, David Seaman, of course, had a match that he would be, well, he would like people to allow him to forget, shall we say. Merson, who's looked conspicuous for Arsenal thus far. Always wanting to work the ball onto his right foot. Well, they sprang forward then, or tried to do so, through Sedgley from the back. And Sessi on his way back to his defensive station, finally making contact with the ball. Merson again. Smith's offside. It's a lovely header, typical of Alan Smith's work. He will wonder whether he made his move. Yes, it must have been close. The ball came quite a long way.
Yes, I think you'll find it, for me, before seeing this, I think he was offside. He was staying just on the last man. He wasn't as blatant as that picture will show. He was staying just against the last man, which all good strikers should do. And it's a tremendous finish. I mean, the lad doesn't know he's offside. There is a chance that the big goalkeeper might have flattened him. That's a great finish. It's amazing how many times is Campbell nearly always latching onto that long one from Dixon.
Yes, Eric Torsvedt, who was linked with Arsenal a few years ago now, but couldn't get a work permit then. When he arrived at Tottenham, he was a long-established international goalkeeper with Norway, so the formalities were dealt with very quickly. Peter Shreves has been doing good work, of course, with Wales as assistant to Terry Yorath, and fresh in his memory, the win over Germany in June, which gives Wales a fighting chance of finishing this season in Sweden in the finals of the European Championship. Van den Hauw. Howells, who we haven't seen much of in this game, has got forward well from midfield this time. And it's over Seaman, but over the bar. Well, David Howells has a brother, Gareth, who was a Wembley scorer in the playoffs for Torquay a couple of months ago, which in itself is not so unusual, except that Gareth Howells is a goalkeeper. He scored a penalty against Blackpool. David Howells here trying to steer the ball over David Seaman, who hadn't strayed too far off his line, in truth. Well, a most unnecessarily corner conceded by Dixon. Trying to curve it back with the outside of the right foot and actually making contact with the instep, and the ball didn't bend, it went straight.
Just trying to think if I've ever seen a back pass miss the goal by so much.
You should play in our Sunday team, Ron. What am I saying? You have played in it. Naim takes the corner. Mabbutt is there! Well, it spared Lee Dixon's blushes then. But Tottenham, who might well have had a good chance if Mabbutt could have headed a cross goal. But the chance wasn't manufactured. It's still 0-0. 15 minutes to go to half-time. A good sense of competition about the Charity Shield here. Seaman is out of his area. Let me just remind you that there's a new touch to the legislation this season. If a goalkeeper handles outside of the penalty area, he will be sent off to keep it in line with the professional foul amendment that we had last season. And indeed also, and I'm sure Ron Atkinson has been talking about this to his players at Aston Villa, if a defender handles on the line to stop a certain goal, he will get a red card as well.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder, Martin, whether we don't complicate the thing too much. I mean, I'm one of those that doesn't believe there's ever been too much wrong with the laws of the game.
Tottenham, incidentally, expect to get some indirect free kicks in the opposing penalty area because goalkeepers now aren't allowed to touch the ball with their feet on two separate occasions. In other words, control it, say, from a back pass with their feet and then bring it out and pick it up again and kick. So whatever the change, the professionals will come up with a way to capitalise on it. Just things to point out, to keep an eye on as the season develops, and you'll see so much good football on Sky Sports over the next 9 months from this country, from Italy, from Germany. Wherever it happens, we'll be there. It's going to be a long throw from Dixon, unless someone comes short late, which they haven't done. Actually came off Stewart. Davis diving in.
It's very often that's a tactic if it's applied right. It can be more dangerous, I think, than a corner, because you can be a lot more accurate if the guy's a good thrower. I mean, that wasn't Dixon's best throw as it happens that time, but even then, he's got the help on with the help of, I think it was Paul Stewart.
Yes, that was Easter 1980 when Paul Davis was unveiled. He was a winner for Arsenal against Tottenham then. And when loyalty is not perhaps the commodity it was in the game, and it's not always the player's fault for that, but Paul Davis's loyalty to Arsenal has been exemplary. Smith against Sedgley. George Graham affirming this week that Arsenal do want to add new players to their squad. He didn't say the team, but where will he find them? Rocastle given more room here than Tottenham really would like. Hillier. Corner. To go to half-time. An opportunity maybe for Arsenal to get the ball past Erik Thorstvedt. Adams poised to come deep. O'Leary got the flick this time. And Tottenham dealt with it well. Terry Holbrook rules for Arsenal again. Tottenham not so understanding this time. Spurs maybe with extra concern, knowing that the service from Davis at the last corner was spot on. Will he look for O'Leary again? He does, but can't get over the head of Van den Hauwe. Dixon. Everything ahead of Nigel Winterburn. He's presented the ball straight to Lineker, who's got one or two options on the far side, but nothing to his left. Samways has made a great run, and Adams didn't time that tackle at all well. Lineker at the near post, and it's a wonderful save by Seaman from Naeem. The ball's still in play. A great break by Tottenham. And David Seaman, who was in the toils here in the FA Cup semi-final against the same opponents, came up with a save and worked more in keeping with his class.
Beautiful break here by Naeem. Adams a little bit short on his tackle, but Samways holds it, gets the keeper under the ball, and from there on in you think Naeem was just going to open his account. Good goalkeeping. He's been at the front post for the possible drag to the near post, and he's managed to scamper back across his goal. See, that's the sort of thing he will do 100 times a day, I would guess, in training, for that very reason. Moving his feet quickly across the goal.
There wasn't too much wrong with the header, Ron. Down just where you're told to put it.
I must admit, as soon as he headed it, I thought, well, that's a goal. Great break from Samways, though, from the middle of the field. First time we've really seen him go with any purpose. Adams, a little bit slow. I think Adams won't be terribly happy with him getting across here. But he's picked out the cross. That is a beautiful cross. He's got the keeper under the ball. But there you see, that's not a fluke, the very fact it hit his leg.
Did you see Nigel Winterburn had got back actually behind David Seaman, who'd given the ball away to Lineker in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, one of the great keepers for both these sides is Pat Jennings. How many times did you see him do that? Stop the ball with his feet.
Yes, for Tottenham first and then Arsenal. And of course, when you think of Charity Shields, Pat Jennings was a goal scorer in the Charity Shield back in 1967 when the match was played at Old Trafford, Manchester United against Tottenham. And Pat, I think at the Stretford end, cleared it all the way down past poor Alex Stepney. Now Howells, who, like Gascoigne, made a good recovery for the semi-final. The semi-final that was going Tottenham's way at this stage against Arsenal, but it's level pegging here after 45 minutes, thanks to a very high-class save indeed from David Seaman, and some very capable work at the other end from Eric Thorstvedt.
Perché nessuno dimentichi che il calcio è ritrovarsi.
Arsenal start the second half. 0-0 here in the Tenants Charity Shield. Arsenal played in this match 2 years ago and were beaten 1-0 by Liverpool. A good sprinkling of this team were on the field that day. Tottenham were the last London club to win the Charity Shield outright. It is shared if the match finishes a draw. There's no extra time, no penalty shootout. And that's way back in 1962 when Tottenham got the Charity Shield, long before it became a showpiece Wembley occasion. Hillier's header. All have the greatest stamina here in sapping conditions. Mercer. Still goes on. And Davis lines it up, but he'd love for the ball to have bounced onto his left side and not the right. He didn't attack it with huge confidence, Rob.
No, in all fairness, it looks as if once Mercer's shot was deflected, it looks as if it was coming out a little bit more to him. think even the defenders hung it back a little bit, thinking it was going to be Davis's ball. Didn't go to his best foot either. This is a good, positive run by Merson.
Arsenal's only defeat pre-season came in that penalty shootout last Sunday against Sampdoria. It's a good attendance at a time when so many football fans are finishing their holidays. Sedgley, but Smith might take it from him, and has done. Davis. He spotted Winterburn, wide of Merson this time. And Fenwick doesn't flinch in those situations, and the ball bounced away safely for Spurs. Terry Holbrook wanting the game to go on, although Paul Stewart is certainly not really participating in it, injured up on the halfway line. Merson taking on Fenwick. He'll feel he can beat him for speed, and Campbell is there. Abbott met it. Davis tries his luck. Winterburn. Everything is right of Paul Merson. You feel he's getting into the penalty area, hoping he might get a penalty.
Yes, I think he definitely went looking for a nudge then, when he went between Allen and Fenwick.
It's Winterburn's turn this time, and he's got into the area as well. Arsenal trying to find the right ball. And it was very nearly there from Winterburn towards the head of Smith. Dixon. Oh, and Torsfett actually had no direct challenge, and Alan Smith, who'd gone from one side of the goal, couldn't get his position right on the other side to be at the far post from Lee Dixon's cross. Arsenal still have a corner. Stewart back into the action after some running repairs. Testing out Davis and beating him. Lineker joined in the middle by Samways, if Stewart can supply a cross. Allen linking up with Samways. Well, it was one that got away for Tottenham.
Very much so, because they had so many people in good positions then. Any ball of quality from Paul Allen then, and it had a distinct shooting opportunity.
Space now in midfield as the conditions begin to find out the fitness. And Torsfett. Actually, it was a mishit cross from Dixon, and he was hardly looking at the outcome of it, picking himself up as he went down there. But Eric Torsfett, happily for Tottenham, had his eyes firmly on the ball, and he was taking no risks.
Yeah, it was interesting there as well, that ball of Dixon's, that move of Dixon's came on the back of a break from Tottenham's best move, and none of the Tottenham players that made the break had the energy to get back. They had left about 4 or 5 players stranded upfield.
Well, will we get an opening goal from a set play? Davis with the corner. He's going to have another chance. 18 minutes to go. Both these sides with reserve reputations at working very hard on their set pieces. Here's a variety which involves Campbell going for the short corner. I don't think involves a miskick there by Paul Davis. Dixon, who had to cover in the centre. Merson. Spurs were just starting to move out and had to check back. And Merson teases them again. And as Ronnie said earlier, he is trying to win the game, perhaps, if he can't do it with his own twinkling feet, by making Tottenham bring him down in the area.
He didn't dive so much there, he tried to swim for that one, I thought. But it is encouraging to see people run at defenders. Checks and then swerves. A little bit of contact.
Let me remind you again that in the 2 First Division meetings last season, Tottenham kept clean sheets against Arsenal. They both finished 0-0. And Arsenal were able, at least once, to beat every other team in the First Division during the campaign. Abbott's bit of bundling there from Campbell, one would suspect. And had Campbell come out on top, probably the whistle would have gone. Merson. Oh, and Fenwick, it'll run for Smith, will it? Not quite, because Torsfet came out knowing that he had to get to the ball then.
Yes, she felt this was going to be the one. Everything looked just about right. The lay-in from Merson into Smith's feet, but he just couldn't make it. And he's suffered, I would guess, a thigh strain out there.
Actually, Fenwick in making what was quite a clean challenge as the ball came back to Merson, knocked it against a teammate. I think it was Sedgley. You see there, Fenwick gets to the ball and it comes back off that little scrum there, almost for Alan Smith, but not quite. Well, in this sort of heat, the players could be losing 7 or 8 pounds. Ron Atkinson even taking on some liquid refreshment up here of a non-alcoholic variety, I can tell you. Minutes to go. It's been a fascinating Charity Shield. Tottenham have stood their corner under heavy pressure in the second half. And Terry Fenwick certainly knows that he's back in the big time. Arsenal have clearly felt that, given the Fenwick's potential rustiness, that the way forward has been on the left. Merson has seen so much of the ball, he's promised so much, he's got so close to fulfilling it as well. And in these closing stages, at least the players don't have any extra time to conserve their legs for. It's a 90-minute occasion here. So one would expect them to go hell for leather for the win right to the last. Hillier. Flag went up. Here's Samways. It's going to be offside.
I must confess that must have been very, very close. I had a feeling that Dixon was perhaps a shade deeper than the rest of his back line on that one. Lineker was always aware where the defenders were. I was watching his movement as the play was developing.
There's a double substitution for Arsenal. Off-going David Rocastle and Kevin Campbell, and on comes number 14, Michael Thomas, and number 15, who is Andrew Cole. Now, Michael Thomas, one suspects, has quite a bit to do to win a regular place back in the Arsenal starting lineup. This may just be the platform for him in the limited time that remains, 12 minutes. Andy Cole, the striker, who's been in the England Junior World Cup squad in Portugal this summer. He's still only 19. Winterberg. Hillier. Thomas couldn't keep it in. Thomas, who likes to be in the centre of midfield, but it looks as though he stepped straight into the Rocastle role on the right. Samways. Allen in the middle this time, and Lineker's cropped up on the right-hand side. Steve Sedgley has made an ambitious run into the middle. He's the Tottenham player closest to the cross. Adams clears. Howells is covering for Sedgley at the back. Stewart's won it back for Tottenham. Taken on by Naim. Naim again. And Adams wants to stop the corner. He's done that. For all the pressure that Arsenal have been able to exert, there's been a punctuation, really, of this half with Tottenham breakouts, Lineker prominent, but they haven't quite been able to find the final ball to finish it off.
That's right, but I think you always get the feeling if somebody like Naim, for example.
This is Cole chasing. Sorry, Ron, just to cut across you for a moment. And Dixon, the goal is empty, only momentarily.
As you say, people like Naim, Lineker himself, Paul Allen, any of those, they seem to have the ability, you think, when they're in the attacking third, to produce something special. I think that's why, if you're the Arsenal management, you'd have your heart in your mouth a little bit when they make breaks against you. Because Arsenal have defended a little bit 2v2 as well this half, pushing both full-backs on. You know, and they've tended to leave Adams and O'Leary to just defend for themselves a little bit.
Inside the final 10 minutes. No obstruction, says Terry Holbrook by Allen on Merson. David O'Leary's played well within himself at the back. He's made no mistakes. And once again it shows when O'Leary's not a first-choice player what a good replacement he is when either Bold is today or Adams is unavailable.
Yeah, it'll be interesting watching Thomas play on that right-hand side. He always gives the impression he's happier running from a narrower position, running with through gaps rather than occupying touchline areas.
He was, of course, a full-back run as a England schoolboy international, and I think in his early days, Highbury.
Played his. I think he went to Portsmouth, didn't he, on loan?
Here's Stewart. Adams picked it off. Who's got the will now, as well as the fitness? Tottenham would be quite happy to stop Arsenal beating them again, but there might be more on offer now. Allen. Can he find Lineker? Not quite. He's in there again. And it drops the way of Vinnie Samways. Allen was put in a position where he had to come back to get onside.
Doesn't always show on the screen, but the number of times when Spurs are developing attack, the good positions Lineker takes up.
Thomas trying to get a toe in. It will come for Hillier. Abbott didn't deal with it decisively. Knocked off by Smith. Merson looking for the spectacular.
Certainly wasn't the worst effort we've ever seen, was it? Knew what he was doing. There he goes, tries just a little bit more curl at the end of it. Might have had the big Norwegian scrambling a little bit more.
Arsenal, who have played with a sweeper, David O'Leary, who's on the ball now, has been it often enough, haven't used it at all in their pre-season games. What Aston Villa do under Ron, all will be revealed out of all places, Sheffield Wednesday. too long. But there was help on hand.
That was obviously tiredness, Naeem. He had so many options there at first that it looks as if his mind was absolutely bogged down.
2 minutes to go. There's no settling for a share of the spoils here. Both sides still want to win it as much as they did at the outset, and that was considerably. Cole. Stopped by Van den Hal. That all seems to have calmed down in that particular area of the pitch after the flare-up earlier in the half. Lineker, who ran from this position to seal the semi-final. It involves Allen.
Any sort of quality cross, either the front post where Lineker was galloping for, or the back post where Stewart was going for. Well, whether they scored or not, certainly would have created a great situation for them. But there is more and more of a threat at the moment. I think Arsenal will be more pleased to see the final whistle now than Tottenham. Tottenham are looking more likely to score.
Yes, Arsenal almost blown out by their endeavours in the first half an hour of the second period. Seemed their great chance to win the game. Now they're worried as the linesman flags to come to their rescue.
It's incredible, really, how many of Spurs' best moves as well start when Lineker drops off into a deep position. He's usually the setting-up player today. He's more often than not.
As the one and only striker, I guess he has to get himself involved if they have to play a forward ball at all.
That's right, but he's dropping off a long way. Not at the start of the game, he wasn't, but as the game's developed, he's dropped off a long way. And he's, neither Adams nor O'Leary's tracked him.
If it's going to be settled one way or the other, it's got to happen now in injury time, or stoppage time. And Arsenal might be able to do that here. Merson. This is Cole on the far side. They saw the net shake and they thought it was inside. But it was the outside of the net.
I must confess his control here was brilliant. I actually thought he had scored from this angle. I think the goalkeeper thought he might have scored as well.
Well, that was the last action of a hugely enjoyable Charity Shield, but one that's failed to produce a goal. And George Graham and Peter Shreeves have an immediate post-mortem on it between themselves, and there'll be good and bad, I'm sure, to analyse in both parties. Certainly the good for Arsenal included the performance of Paul Merson, who's put so much into it. He is the sponsor's man of the match. I don't think there's any great surprise in that. And amazingly, with the Shield spending 6 months at Highbury, 6 months at White Hart Lane, no London club has won it outright since it's been switched to Wembley. In fact, since 1962, when Tottenham took it. But still, Arsenal are finding Spurs a tough nut to crack. So the two sides going up side by side.
I think you'd probably say overall as well that was a fair result. Arsenal had most of the pressure play in both halves of the game, and yet Spurs, as I say, played a very controlled way and made the more controlled breaks. Actually, many threatening breaks.
The presentation from Ian Prosser, the chairman of BAS PLC, the sponsors here. The plaques in memento for the two captains, Tony Adams and Gary Mabbutt. And soon enough, their sides will be locking horns again in the First Division as Arsenal strive to retain the championship. Remember, when they won the title in '89, there certainly was a reaction after that. They didn't have a good season at all as defending champions. Can they do better this time? And Tottenham, a club you always fancy to win a cup, capable on their day of beating anyone. But capable, it seems these days, of stopping Arsenal beating them. 0-0 again here, as were both league games last season.